This is a CBC special presentation.
It's the final day of Canada Reads. We started off with 5 great books. Each title helped change the narrative in different ways. 3 books are already out of contention. 2 are left. Only one can win. I'm your host, Ali Hassan. This is Canada Reads.
This is Canada Reads, Canada's annual title fight.
Thanks again for joining us for the final time. Cue tear running down cheek. Let's meet this year's panelists. One last time, best-selling thriller author Linwood Barclay. Hello, Linwood.
Hello, Ali. Nice to be here.
Nice to have you here. Olympic swimming champion Maggie Mac Neil. Hello, Maggie.
Hi.
Neuroscientist turned pastry chef Saïd M'Dahoma. Hello, Saïd.
Hello.
Heartland actor and director Michelle Morgan. Hello, Michelle.
Hi, Ali.
And Indigenous wellness advocate and podcaster Shayla Stonechild. Hi, Shayla.
Tanse.
Our Canada Reads 2025 panelists. Okay, so let's take a look at the week that has been. We've had 3 days of debate so far and 3 eliminations. On day 1, we said goodbye to Watch Out for Her by Samantha M. It was championed by Maggie Mac Neil. Maggie, as our first free agent, you have been a real wild card, an agent of chaos, if you will, in terms of how you voted in any case. What is your strategy today?
I've been paying a lot of attention to the great conversations and debates that we've had. Obviously, we wouldn't have a debate if it was just rank your top 5 and it wouldn't change, but I've really been trying to listen and hear different perspectives and see what my fellow panelists have to say about their books.
Sure, that's terrific. On day 2, Jennie's Boy by Wayne Johnston was eliminated, the book that Linwood Barclay was backing. Linwood, as a free agent, you have also been unpredictable. I would say both of you are embracing what free agency is meant to be. Yesterday, Linwood, you said you would come in with an idea of how you would vote. And again, listening to what you had heard, you were swayed.
I did. I thought knew what I was going to do, and I changed my mind just sitting here at the table, and I just might do that today, too.
Yeah, just sitting here, you say, but you were listening as well. Just
some of the time, yeah. Some of the time I was. Yeah.
I feel it most. I looked over. You were quite attentive. On day 3, the novel Etta and Otto and Russell and James by Emma Hooper was removed from the competition. It was championed by Michelle Morgan. Michelle, you gave a very passionate defense for this book all week. And as our 3rd free agent, how are you feeling today?
Better than I was yesterday. I was disappointed. I think that this book, I'm happy that this book is the #1 best-selling fiction in Canada for the 2nd week in a row. So people are reading it, but I was disappointed. I'm feeling better today, though. And I truly don't know which way I'm going to vote, so you guys have to convince me.
Okay.
These books are so different.
That's the embracing of the free agency right there. You mentioned that the book is #1 on the CBC bestseller list. I'd like to give you an opportunity now to remind Canada why they should read Etta and Otto and Russell and James.
You know, I chose this book instinctively, but in hanging out with Emma Hooper, we were standing in my kitchen, and she mentioned that she wanted to write characters with an open heart, and that at her core, she thinks that people are all good, that we're born good, to love and care for each other. And that really comes out in this book, and I think that's part of why I chose it in a time of such political turmoil and stress, and in a time just where there's so much pettiness in the news. I wanted to bring a book that just reminds us of the goodness of the human spirit and of community.
Thank you very much, Michelle. All right, Maggie, Linwood, and Saïd, you are, sorry, not Saïd, Michelle, Maggie, Linwood, you are our 3 free agents. You hold the ultimate power to decide which book will be eliminated and which book will ultimately win. Now, on to our final 2 contenders, Shayla and Saïd. You're championing a memoir, Shayla, that is called A Two-Spirit Journey by Ma-Nee Chacaby, written with Mary Louisa Plummer. A Two-Spirit Journey had a vote cast against it yesterday. How confident are you feeling going into today?
Well, honestly, the only vote casted against it was from my opponent. So that makes me feel more confident. And honestly, just a two-spirit journey making it this far. And when I was reading her book, I felt like she was missing that full circle moment still in her life because she was still living off of social insurance and not making very much money per month. And so I wanted this full circle moment to be Canada Reads. And so I think I got that through being a finalist and championing a two-spirit journey. And so regardless of the outcome, like this is a full circle moment for Ma-Nee's journey, and I respect that. And yeah.
All right. And Saïd, your title is the other book in contention, the novel Dandelion by Jamie Chai Yun Liew. Your book had votes cast against it on day 2 and day 3. How are you feeling going into the finals?
I feel like there's going to be a lot of work on my end to convince the fellow panelists. But I'm also happy to be here. Just to get to the finale is amazing. Just to give a voice to immigrants on such a big national stage is more than I could hope for.
Both of you feeling grateful and ready for hard work. Feels like some good final day vibes here. Let's do this. Our two contenders will now make their opening statements for why their book should win Canada Reads. Shayla, you've gone last all week, so we're going to mix that up today and ask you to go first. First, let's check out the trailer for a two-spirit journey.
Two spirits live inside you. This is what my kokum, my grandmother, used to say to me. 1952, Umbabaka. I learned to make moccasins with Mom and how to hunt with my stepdad. Grief, abuse, addiction, experiences that stay with me long after I have to leave. 1975, Thunder Bay. I get sober. I come out to my friends and family. Some people don't understand. I lean on the ones who do. 2013, I helped lead the first gay pride parade in the city. I find comfort in nature, in healing, in the memory of my kokum. My name is Ma-Nee Chacaby. I am an Ojibwe Cree elder, and this is my story.
Shayla, you have 60 seconds. Why should a two-spirit journey win Canada Reads?
A Two-Spirit Journey by Ma-Nee Chacaby with Mary Louisa Plummer is more than just an autobiography. It is a book that is alive and it has a living spirit. It is a powerful act of resilience, of truth-telling, and of healing. This book deserves to win because it embodies the essence of what this competition stands for. It's a Canadian story that challenges, educates, and transforms its readers. For me, this book is deeply personal. As an Indigenous woman navigating wellness, identity, and reclamation, Ma-Nee's journey of overcoming systemic oppression, addiction, and trauma while embracing her two-spirit identity resonates in profound ways. But the message in this book is universal. Ma-Nee's story is not only about survival, it's about thriving and about finding love for oneself and one's culture and one's community, even in difficult circumstances. Canada needs this book because it amplifies a voice that usually would not be heard, and it shines a light on important experiences that would not be seen. Awarding a two-spirit journey the Canada Reads title would honor her journey. Leave it at that.
Shayla, there will be time. There will be time. Saïd, you're up next. Here is the trailer for Dandelion by Jamie Chai Yun
Liew. When Lily was 11 years old, her mother left. Lily, her sister, and father remained. In a small BC mining town, Lily struggles to understand why, but there are no traces. And the only way to move is forward. Now, Lily is a new mother. Feeling lost and untethered, she begins to look for answers and finds herself on a journey to Southeast Asia to uncover the truth. There she learns that there's always more than what meets the eye. To some, the dandelion is a weed. To others, it's a flower. Beautiful, resilient. It can make its roots anywhere.
Saïd, you have 60 seconds. Why should Dandelion win Canada Reads?
Dandelion should win Canada Reads because of what it represents. It's giving a voice to immigrants who have struggled to adapt and want to be accepted for who they are in all their complexity. We live in a time where immigrants in so many countries are detained even if they have a valid status and did not commit any crimes. If Dandelion wins, it's a strong message that we value immigrants' lives and complex experiences in Canada. Dandelion should win because of its craft. It puts you in the shoes of characters whose life and experience might be very different from yours, and yet you can feel the longing, the sadness, the joys that these imaginary characters go through. You care about Lily's and her mother's fate and wish they will reunite. I hope that Dandelion wins so that as many young immigrants as possible can read that their existence is valid, that they are as Canadian as anyone, regardless of their skin color or where they come from. I wish I had read Dandelion as a teenager because it would have helped me deal with the dual identity so many of us have.
Thank you, Saïd. There you have it. The two books in the final are A Two-Spirit Journey by Ma-Nee Chacaby, written with Mary Louisa Plummer, championed by Shayla Stonechild, and Dandelion by Jamie Chai Yun Liew, championed by Saïd M'Dahoma. Our two contenders are tasked with convincing our three free agents why the book they chose should win today. So it is time to debate. To select the one book all of Canada should read, you'll have to vote against the book. Against. But for that to happen, you need to be properly convinced. Shayla, why should Michelle, Maggie, and Linwood vote against the novel Dandelion?
Okay, so
Saïd, at the end of the round, let me just tell you that you will have a chance to respond to what you've heard.
You know, this is very difficult for me because Dandelion is one of my favorite books on this table, and it does bring up important topics such as immigration, statelessness, longing for home, and it also has food and culture woven throughout it. For me, though, I felt like Dandelion is a passive way of transformation versus an active way of transforming in A Two-Spirit Journey. An example of this is the protagonist struggles with her dual identity, but rarely actively engages in self-reclamation. There's a quote on 132. I just got kind of tired of explaining to people what Hokkien is and why people don't know about it and why it isn't Mandarin or Cantonese. This passage reflects her frustration, but it does not explore deeper personal transformation. Whether, in contrast, A Two-Spirit Journey presents adaptation as a necessary and ongoing act of resilience. So, for example, on page 65, she tried to teach me how to cope with difficult problems by thinking about different ways to solve them. For example, she asked me, what would I do if I was on a journey and found boulders blocking my path? So this teaching is not just about survival, but about actively strategizing ways to overcome adversity. Another is that this is a book of historical documentation.
And when you say this, you are talking about
Two-Spirit Journey. And it preserves Two-Spirit and Indigenous knowledge. And I think that's crucial to learning here within this country. For me, another reason why maybe to vote against Dandelion, it lacks deep emotional engagement. I felt like there was a lot of questions that I had at the end of reading Dandelion. Like Michelle had mentioned, it kind of just left a lot of unresolved questions. There was a 20-year age gap between Lily wanting to find her mom, and then, so for me, I was just like, if that was me, I would have wanted to find my mom right away. Why was there a 20-year age gap in between that? When in A Two-Spirit Journey, the grandmother's role and the relationship between Ma-Nee is central to the story, and you really feel that relationship throughout the entire book. Another reason why I think Dandelion should be voted against, it doesn't really talk about the intersectional, it doesn't talk about intersectional identity to the same regard that A Two-Spirit Journey does. Even though the protagonist's identity is a woman of color, she rarely acknowledges the systemic barriers that she faces. When A Two-Spirit Journey acknowledges all the intersectional barriers that Ma-Nee faces. And the last one for why I would vote against Dandelion is because you're left with an open heart and kind of an open wound. You don't know what to take with all this information. What is the solutions? What are we supposed to do now? How can I support? And that's maybe something I would have loved to see in the afterword, especially because the author, she is a lawyer. And so all throughout, we see that throughout the book. And so I would have loved a call to action at the end that we can all be a part of moving forward, or even an embodiment of the protagonist's actions and making a change in her own life. You hear that she's a lawyer and she's like helping it, but you don't see an example of that. And so I would have loved to see an example of what do we do with this information and how do we move forward with this book as a nation. And that's something that I think Ma-Nee champions through an embodiment of her actions and their solutions all throughout this book.
Okay, let me get some of the free agents to weigh in on that too. Linwood, you slid your hand on the poker table. I take that to mean you may have had a thought.
No. I was thinking, I'm glad that it wasn't my responsibility to analyze Dandelion at that kind of microscopic level, because I couldn't have done it. So you know, hats off to you, Shayla. I mean, you went at it in a sort of deeper way than I have with either of the books. You know, I guess I take a more sort of surface view. Both of these books, to me, have took me to an experience that was completely foreign to my own, and so I felt that they're very different but kind of equally valid. I mean, I don't expect Lily to analyze, you know, her situation in the same way that Ma-Nee does, because they're completely different. So I don't find necessarily that those are faults, because I think Lily is true to her story just as Ma-Nee is to hers. So it's a lot of that. I'm not smart enough to figure out all the stuff you said. It kind of went over my head to a degree. Ask Maggie. Go to her.
Great suggestion, Linwood. Maggie, why don't we ask you what your thoughts are on what you just heard and about Dandelion in general, but also what Shayla has said.
Yeah, I agree a lot with what both Linwood and Shayla has said. For me, Dandelion, it doesn't make sense for Lily to have gone, I think, at the age of, 11 when her mother left? I forget the exact number. Because she is so young, and Ma-Nee exactly has all that years of experience and has the time and space to kind of have reflected back on those periods of her life. I thought, in general, with Dandelion, it didn't. I hate saying this about a book that's made the final categories, but I find it hard to remember the details of it. I remember a little bit more of A Two-Spirit Journey, but I think that's mainly due to the volume of information included in it. But for Dandelion, for me, it was, I remember the major things, but not a lot of what got to that point and what kind of threads the two together.
Okay. Michelle, as our fresh, new free agent, what are your
I don't know how to do this. Well, first of all, that was very well said. Very well thought out. I do disagree with the fact that you said it didn't have an intersectional lens on it, because I think it did address that. When you look at Sui Hua, is that how you pronounce it? Sui Hua. One of the reasons I believe that she couldn't come back and get her girls is because she was the mother and she had abandoned them. And being a woman immigrant, I believe that it was examined and looked at from that perspective, not just being an immigrant, but being a woman and also, having financial issues. I believe that was examined. But I would ask you, I mean, it's very clear why in some sense, why you've chosen this book.
Yeah, you're asking Saïd.
I'm saying to Saïd. Yeah. Saïd has chosen Dandelion because he understands the immigrant experience, and this book shines a really bright, much-needed light on many different types of immigrant experiences. But as a book, as someone who wants to just have a good read, can you talk a little bit about the strengths of this book? Beyond just the themes, because people don't just pick a book because it's an important theme.
I think it's a good book. First of all, there's a great hook. You start with the mother who has disappeared, and you just want to know why it happened. And because of that, you almost become an investigator. You're trying to find some cues as to why the mother left during the first pages of the book. I think it's also great because it's a real Canadian book. There's so many different places where Lily and her family go to in all throughout Canada that shows you the beauty of the country, shows you how vast and big the country is. And it's very accessible. It's very accessible. It's very easy to read. It's very easy to access for people, for example, whether they're immigrants or not. If you're immigrant, you're going to recognize yourself in it. If you're not an immigrant, you're going to understand the different perspective.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you, Saïd. That is it for this round. Let's turn to the other book in contention. Saïd, why should Michelle, Maggie, and Linwood vote against the memoir, A Two-Spirit Journey? And at the end of this round, Shayla, you will have a chance to respond to what you've heard.
A Two-Spirit Journey is a great book that I loved. It has a great story that should be heard, but for me, that was not a great book. And I'm mostly talking about the style here, not about the content. What I had trouble with is how very factual, very dry it is. It's very like journaling, like you have one fact after another. And sometimes I wish I had more explanation about the state of mind that the character, the protagonist, actually had. Like, for example, I think it's page 180, where Abigail is adopted by Ma-Nee and Grace. And we see that we just have one fact after another. We see that they had to adopt her. How it is going on the day-to-day basis, but we don't actually know how did they feel, because Grace and Ma-Nee spent so much time building that house, and Ma-Nee is finally in a relationship that she likes. Adopting someone must have disrupted the relationship in any way, or maybe made it better, but we don't really know. We don't really go into that because of the style of writing. And that's the other thing. It's the characters, the protagonists, I'm sure, are very complex, but most of the time we just see them passing by. They go into Ma-Nee's life and then they disappear. And we know a little bit about what she thinks about them, but we never know how do they feel most of the time. And I feel like this is one of the strengths of Dandelion, which was that you can get into someone's mind, you can understand what they think, you can kind of imagine why they feel in a certain way. And it's because it's fiction. That's the beauty of fiction. It transports you into an imaginary world and makes you think, gets you into the mind of someone else. And the other thing that I found was difficult, and I know it's a very privileged thing to say, that it was a lot of trauma. It was a lot of trauma at the beginning, like on the first 100 pages. I think I was really happy to have a ray of hope at the end, but it's so difficult to go through. And again, I think this is where fiction helps a lot, because you can create a story, you can address trauma without, by giving, some time to breathe. You get some time to breathe, and so that you're not in a constant state of fight or flight, like you are with A Two-Spirit Journey. At the beginning of the book, I wanted to fight everybody who did something wrong to Ma-Nee, and I wanted to cry at the same time. So yeah, and you think about not just about the truthfulness, the importance of the story, but also the craft and everything else that comes into making a book a great book.
Okay. And on that note, Maggie, why don't we get you to share your thoughts on what you just heard from Saïd?
Yeah, no, I agree with a lot of what Saïd said. Like I've mentioned this week, this is the book I learned the most from, and I think it really opened my eyes that way. There are a lot of side characters that do kind of come in and out, so I think maybe because she's so good about having the terms right after the words and that description, I think a glossary might have been a little bit helpful at that point. And then it's all about her resiliency and how she gets through these traumatic events in her life. But it kind of seems like she had this happen, but then she is almost too resilient and moves right on to the next thing. Like, I want to know a little bit more emotion and understand kind of more what she was thinking, how she was feeling. Certain parts of the book do that a little bit, but I would love to have like dove deeper, because you can tell a little bit that she kind of told the story, and Mary Louisa might have just kind of written as is and not kind of dove into more of some of the more specific aspects.
Linwood?
I don't think anybody's going to take a two-spirit journey to the beach this summer. But having said that, you know, I feel like Jenny's Boy was a memoir and Dandelion is a novel, and I feel that his two-spirit journey is a document. It's a kind of testimonial. And it's a tough read, and it's kind of, at times it's kind of unrelentingly dreary. There's not a lot of craft in it, I feel. But I feel that as a document, it may be a better document than Dandelion is a book.
Okay, Michelle, your thoughts on what you've been hearing?
It is. It's such an important document. Like you say, Linwood, and Saïd, I think you're well-spoken. I'm excited to hear how you respond to that. But it's tough to get through. It's factual. You don't get context. You don't get much. A little bit of insight into how she's feeling, but not much. Some characters are just described as a relative or a colleague. Like, you don't get that real like richness of depth of detail. But it's also one of the most powerful, unflinching stories I've ever heard. So I'd love to hear what you think about all of this.
Shayla, you waited patiently for this moment.
There's so many things I could say. I think for me, out of all the books on this table, it was the one that transformed me the most, because I also had to look at my own ignorance. I didn't live in 1863, and so reading about Ma-Nee's grandmother, and like when there was teepees here, and like life before social media, and life before alcohol was introduced to communities, and like living on the land, and like the way Canadians supported her throughout her journey too. There are so many strangers that helped Ma-Nee get to where she is today, whether the taxis were helping her, you know, she was getting beat up in Thunder Bay. They were taking her all throughout the stories. There is Canadians helping Ma-Nee along this journey, and I think that was a really great example for me to see, because oftentimes you don't see non-Indigenous people supporting Indigenous people in that regard. And for me, that changed my eyes of Canadians in general in a way, because I was like, wow, like Ma-Nee is just, she has such an open heart to everybody. And for me, you brought up a good point yesterday, Michelle, I think, of how, you know, you're like, I don't want this book, an academic text, to be the winner of a Canada Reads show. And it made me reflect on my journey. And if I were to write a book, would that be held in a high regard as the same way? Because would it be seen as an academic text because of what my family has gone through? And so it made me question, you know, us writers as Indigenous people, we are inherently educational and political just through being alive here at this table. It's a political statement in itself. And so it made me question, are we always going to be seen as like would I be seen as an academic text if I wrote my story? Right?
We'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much. That is it for that round. Okay, to say the last day of Canada Reads is intense would be an understatement. Only one can be crowned a champion, but over the 4 days, all 5 panelists go on to a remarkable journey to find the one book that all of Canada should read. The day isn't over yet, so let's listen to this.
Hey Maggie, it's your sister Clara.
Hello Maggie, it's your mum here.
I watched you work so hard at preparing for this. I'm sending you lots of love.
We look at the collection of children's books we have on our bookshelves here at home, and how many hours you spent in the cuddle chair with your dad when you were little, reading book after book, and it warms our hearts. Keep reading, Maggie, your whole life. Sending love and hugs.
Hi Michelle, this is Derek, Mara, and Noah.
Hi Mom. Hi.
We're very proud of you and confident that you'll do great.
Good luck, Mom. We know you're going to do so good. Love you.
Hi, Linwood. It's Nita. You make my heart happy every day. Wishing you all good things. Happy birthday, and I'll take you out to dinner.
I'm really good. I love you, Grandma.
Oh.
Hi, Saïd. It's Alan. Remember how we used to call ourselves when we were younger? Jennie says, it's time to prove it. Have fun.
Hey, mon amour, it's me, Ivana. Obviously, they saved the best for last. I'm just so impressed by your performance. I've been admiring you championing Dandelion this whole week, and I couldn't be more proud of you. Just stay true to yourself, speak your mind, and I can't wait to celebrate your win when you get home.
Can't say, Shayla. It's your mother. You have fierce competition, but you know how to be fierce. And we just wanted to say love you in Cree. Kisagitin. You got this, Shaybe.
Yo, Shayla, it's your brother Joel. You're awesome. You're a powerful human being, and you got this. So let's go, Shayla! Woo!
That's a brother. That's a brother
He's an
right
actor,
there.
you can tell.
Those were the voices of Maggie's sister Clara and mom Susan, Michelle's husband Derek and their two kids Mara and Noah, Linwood's wife Nita and his grandson, Saïd's best friend Alain and Saïd's wife Ivana, and Shayla's mom Lori and her brothers Grayson and Joel. Happy birthday, Linwood, by the way. That got snuck in over there.
Can you speak up a bit?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll leave those old jokes to you, but you've been nothing but spry this entire week. What this takes out of you, I don't know. But
I'm just going to have a nap in about 5 minutes, though. If that's
Give it
okay.
about 25, if you don't mind. We're in the middle of something here. And that something is Canada Reads on CBC and SiriusXM. I'm Ali Hassan. Let's get back to the debate. So both Dandelion and A Two-Spirit Journey explore the idea of home. What does home mean to different people? Home is a place where one finds comfort, but home can also be a place that isn't safe to be. So I want to ask for this round, which book's exploration of home and what home means was the most compelling? Let's start with you, Michelle.
Exploration of home. Well, I have to say, I think Dandelion in a way because people are having to create their own sense of home and wondering what home is and the complexities of that and not really fully feeling like you are ever home. And I thought that Jamie did an amazing job, examining so many different versions of that. There were people who were here kind of illegally and sort of illegally, where it had been sort of smudged and maybe using someone else's birth certificate. And do I deserve to be here? Was a question that some people ask in the book, and I thought that was a really, because it's a timely book. It's a very timely book. We're dealing with questions of belonging and citizenship in real time. So I thought that was really well executed.
Saïd?
Thank you. Yeah, Michelle, what you talked about is definitely one of the strengths of the book, is what is home. And throughout the book, I think people are trying, Lily especially, she's trying to know what is home. And what's interesting is that she was born in Canada. She was born and raised in Canada. And yet sometimes it feels like people treat her like it's not her home. Like she's not supposed to be here, like she doesn't belong here. And this is something that I've seen in my life as well, in France as well. I will have the same kind of thing happening to me where people will ask me, well, is France your place? And I will say, well, I was born and raised in Paris. I don't know, like, how more French can I be? And also what I liked is that by the end of the book, she started to realize, just like you said, that actually home is maybe not 100% Southeast Asia, not 100% Canada, but a mix of both, a mix also of three, actually, with her husband, who is Ukrainian. So they created their own home. They created their own bubble, and I think that's what everybody wants to do. And one of the main characters of the book is actually food. Mm-hmm. And when you're not home, one way to bring home to bring home where you live is food, and that's why it's mentioned so many times throughout the book, because that's the way that people have to connect with where they're from.
Linwood, let me get you in.
I wish I could remember who said this, but there's that expression that home is the place that when you go there, they have to let you in. And home is where you feel safe. Home is your refuge. Home is where you want to go back to. And I felt that Ma-Nee's story was the most compelling in that sense because home so often wasn't those things. It wasn't a safe place. She had abusive partners, and she was having to move out and find another place and build a house and so forth. So I felt that was a real powerful theme in the book, is that there wasn't that refuge for her oftentimes. So that's, you know, there wasn't that safe place. So I think that absence of home was a strong theme throughout that book.
Shayla, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I think this is a part of the lived experience of Two-Spirit people, is they don't feel even safe at home within their own body because literally there's so much judgment and violence and abuse imposed on the lives of Two-Spirit people. Here in Canada, there's 1.3 million people that identify that part of the LGBTQ plus community. Yet a lot of them don't experience safety in their own body, and they don't feel like a sense of home. And so that's why I admire about her journey, is regardless of her not having an actual safe home, she still opened up her doors for everyone. Homeless youth, pregnant women, Alcoholics Anonymous. Like, she just tirelessly opened up her home despite her not feeling safe in her own body and her own self until much later on in her life. And for that, I just have a lot of respect, because it takes a certain individual to trust other people nowadays.
Maggie?
Yeah, for me, I think home has always been about where my family is, and I think Dandelion is interesting because Suihua decides to leave her family to go home. And I think that's an interesting contrast based on what I've always thought and the way I've kind of conducted my life. But in a Two-Spirit journey, yes, she travels all the way around Canada and meets all these different people. And like Shayla said, she has opened her doors to everyone. And so that seemed more like home to me than abandoning your family.
Saïd?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think that Suihua was mistaken. She thought that if she went back to Southeast Asia, that she will finally be home, that it will solve all of her problems. And I think that's the point of the book, is to say that it was a mistake, that actually, you're right, Suihua should have stayed with her kids and helped them. She inflicted very difficult trauma on her kids, and the book touches on that, right? It says that because she left, she made her children's life miserable. It was really hard. She was not there for the big milestones. She was not there to help with her granddaughter. She made her children felt guilty because of that. Because she was not able to understand exactly what you said, that actually home is not where you think you're supposed to be, but where your family is.
Let me add something to this discussion. We're talking about home, but I also want to mention and discuss this idea that both these books they feature complex characters and complicated connections with friends and family. So I want to add this question here: which portrayal of the complicated connection between people was most intriguing? Michelle?
Yeah, I would have to say A Two-Spirit Journey. And I actually want to ask you about it, Shayla, because it is so unflinchingly honest and so brave. I don't think I've ever read such an honest story. When you were reading it, because she's addressing so much childhood trauma, abuse, sexual abuse within her community that she experienced and witnessed, if people don't have the right context and know their history and to know the context of why her community might have been that way, do you ever think that people can read this and take it out of context and think and pass judgment on her community?
Well, that's been our lives here as Indigenous people. We are always dealing with judgment, just living here in Canada. And I would say that I didn't pass necessary judgment onto her. I found it actually really admirable in her fearlessness to be so brave and to be so vulnerable, because now I think in today's society, vulnerability is often seen as a weakness. And I think that's what Ma-Nee has, is that's her strength. And so for me reading it, I was like, oh, wow, I do have the power to share both the dark and the light because that's a part of the human experience. And I don't think we should discredit or hide away or feel shamed or feel guilty for maybe the traumas that have happened to us, because a part of healing is transmuting that darkness and bringing it into the light. And so I think this is a very clear example of what that transmutation actually looks like in physical form and through an embodiment of Ma-Nee's journey. And for me, so I was inspired by it, but also I recognize there's a lot of stuff that may move readers in different ways. And for that reason, I think that is an invitation for people to have these conversations and to bring these books into your communities. What I love about this too is there's book clubs all around the country right now for all of our books, and hopefully they're talking about healing and the solutions just as much as they're talking about the trauma.
Saïd, let me bring you into this conversation and ask you the same question. Which portrayal of complicated connection between people was the most intriguing out of these books in your mind?
I think one thing that was really important is actually the lack of relationship between Lily and her mother, and how it shaped completely the life of Lily, but also all the family around her. But even if she left, she was able to recover, she was able to heal because there were other people helping her who, like Auntie Chunio, who decided to become a mother again for Lily and her sister. She decided to, let's say, pick up the slack and, just help her raise those kids like they were her kids. Also, the relationship between her and between Lily and her husband, John. Lily has a lot of internalized racism. She hates herself. She doesn't want to engage with her community. But her husband tells her, hey, actually, this is who you are. This is a part of who you are. You need to engage with those people. You need to discover a big part of yourself. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So what I liked about the relationships in Dandelion is how it shows that you cannot heal by yourself. You need other people. You need other people to help, to lift you up. Otherwise, it's just too complicated when you're isolated.
Linwood?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's a totally fair question or a fair comparison, because looking at the complexity of characters and how they're portrayed, because I think a two-spirit journey has the edge because it's true, because it happened. But for Dandelion, I think because someone has creatively, fictionalized and worked at that sort of thing, also deserves a lot of credit because it's in an imaginative way, through fiction, has also explored these kinds of complex situations, with being an immigrant and your family living. So I think I kind of would rate them equally in that sense. There's a scene in the book that stuck with me because it reminded me of something that someone had told me once in our own experience, and it's when Lily's, I guess, at the park with her baby, and someone comes up to her and asks, "Oh, could you get your employer to put in a good word for me because I'd like to be a nanny too," or whatever. And there's this automatic assumption because of her race and being with a child that you couldn't be the mother. You're just working, and that scene really stuck with me, and I thought it was a really strong one, and so I rate both these books highly on that score.
Maggie, we have about 45 seconds for this round. I wanted to give you an opportunity to weigh in on these characters in these books. I know that's not a lot of time.
Yeah, no, I think Dandelion, the characters stuck out to me more, and therefore the relationships. I think the mother and child relationship is one that is very complex and multifaceted. And I think there's a lot to be explored in that relationship. With the two-spirit journey, I really just had a hard time remembering who she was with at the time or certain characters like that. So I think that, as far as the question goes, is a little bit more challenging for me.
Okay. That is it for this round. Saïd and Shayla, you are almost done. Here is some motivation to help you make it to the final vote.
Hi, Saïd, it's Jamie. Words cannot express my gratitude for your kind, compassionate, and brilliant championing of Dandelion. Personally, I was so moved at how the book connected with you. I know you've made an impact in how people see and talk about migration and our neighbors. Saïd, you are a true gem, and I'm so proud of what you've been able to accomplish. No matter the outcome, I can't wait to celebrate with you over a meal and marvel over your thoughtful and insightful work.
Hello, Shayla. I'm sending you some good vibes. Depend on your great spirit. She will guide us. She will look after us. She's there with you in your heart, and you will come out and say the right thing. You are very powerful. We're doing it together. We're going to win. I hope. That's it.
Those were the authors of the book still in the running for Canada Reads. The first voice was Jamie Chai Yun Liew, author of Dandelion, and the second was Ma-Nee Chacaby, author of A Two-Spirit Journey. And I'll tell you, it's a victory just to make it to the final round, but there can be only one winner. Saïd and Shayla, it is nearly time to vote. Now is your final chance to convince the three free agents that the book you are championing should win Canada Reads this year. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. So, Shayla, this is your final chance to defend A Two-Spirit Journey. 30 seconds are on the clock.
If there's one thing we can all agree on, it's that our world is in desperate need of healing. Healing begins with stories, and it begins with our truths. A Two-Spirit Journey is exactly that, an extraordinary, open and honest account not only of survival, but of radical transformation and of solutions. This autobiography is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the power of embracing and loving one's true self. Ma-Nee reminds us that courage is not just about surviving hardship, but also about stepping fully into our identity, our purpose, and our place within community.
Thank you, Shayla. Saïd, your final chance to make a case for Dandelion. 30 seconds are on the clock.
Dandelion's goal is to trigger conversations in the Canadian sphere, not just on immigration, but also on mental health, identity, motherhood, and intergenerational trauma. Dandelion wants you to reflect on what immigrants, mothers, or people living with depression are going through with compassion. Its goal is to make you understand choices that you probably would never have made or might not have accepted. Loss of community, longing for your home's food, and abandonment can be life and altering, but there's always a path for healing.
Thank you, Saïd. Okay, panelists, that's it for this year's debate. It all comes down to this. This is the moment. Panelists, it's time to cast your final vote. Your ballots are in front of you. You have some practice in this. Just like the last 3 days, you're voting to eliminate a title. And the last book standing will win Canada Reads. Once you have voted, Julia from the Canada Reads team will collect your ballots. She will go around the circle. Please hand your ballot to her when you are ready. We have said goodbye to 3 books so far this week. I will let folks. Saïd's ballot was came in a little late there, but you got it in.
You just couldn't decide.
Yeah, I mean it is. We've said goodbye to 3 books so far. Watch out for her on day 1. Jenny's Boy on day 2. Etta and Otto and Russell and James on day 3. Which book will be the next to go? And which book will become the next Canada Reads champion? Will it be Dandelion by Jamie Chai Yun Liew, or will it be A Two-Spirit Journey by Ma-Nee Chacaby, written by Mary Louisa Plummer? We'll find out in just a moment. There have been passionate defenses of this book at this table, and free agents who are very open and willing to hear a variety of different arguments, which I think is not always the case, and I commend you all for that. At this point, I do have the votes. Julia is still shuffling the votes, making sure that they're all in the right order for me. Shayla Stonechild, how did you vote?
I guess Dandelion. I think it's Dandelion is the vote that you,
the book that you voted to eliminate. Saïd M'Dahoma,
A Two-Spirit Journey.
Two-Spirit Journey. These are the more obvious choices, and we get those on the table first. Linwood Barclay, less obvious. How did you vote?
I voted Dandelion.
Okay. With that, we have 2 votes against Dandelion and 1 vote to eliminate A Two-Spirit Journey. Maggie Mac Neil, how did you vote?
A Two-Spirit Journey.
We have 2 votes against A Two-Spirit Journey and 2 votes against Dandelion. Michelle Morgan, tell us how you voted.
I voted against Dandelion.
And with that, 3 votes against it. Dandelion has been eliminated. And the winner of Canada Reads 2025 is A Two-Spirit Journey.
Oh my gosh.
My gosh, indeed. We have some time to talk about this, although, Shayla, you fought so hard that I can't imagine you're able to compose yourself immediately.
It's just wild because I was on a fast for 4 days before this journey myself, and so I really went through a really personal and radical transformation. It's my second year 4-day fasting, and this is something that I think we need as Indigenous peoples, a reclamation of our ceremonies and of connection to Creator. And this is what I wanted to champion Ma-Nee for, is because there's solutions, there's ways forward, and there's action. And I would urge Canadians and all listeners to take action, but also to open your heart like Ma-Nee's. There's been so many strangers that have helped her along her journey, and that's what makes us Canadian, and that's what makes us unite us as a country and as a nation. And so thank you to each one of you. I mean, this was very tough competition for each one of you. And going against a person's story is...
I want to play a tape. We have a tape message from somebody very special to you.
Honestly. Oh, really? Again?
If you're seeing this, Shayla, that means we have won. And Mary, I also want to congratulate you on this book. You did the punching the keys. I did the talking. And I really appreciate both of us and Shayla. And I really appreciate all the other writers, all the book people that joined us on this journey. I am so proud and happy to have heard their books, and somebody's going to read me one of their books someday. And I encourage everybody to just enjoy your life today and remember to love yourself.
That was Ma-Nee Chacaby talking about the winning book of Canada Reads 2025, Two-Spirit Journey, written with Mary Louisa Plummer. I will say, Shayla, you know, just peeling back the Canada Reads curtain a little bit, we share a makeup dressing room. That's a CBC budget thing, I guess. But we do that. So I've seen you every morning. And I've seen you go from more conversational in the morning to more focused and focused and focused. So very, very happy for you. I've watched you transform into the person who wanted to very much take this, in your own hands. We'll talk about this a little bit more as well. And I also want to say, Dandelion, as you know, Saïd, #1 on the CBC bestsellers list. The book was featured at Calgary Word Fest, Vancouver's 2025 Writers Festival. Both of you and Jamie attended. I do see a future where both of you are in Southeast Asia together, and I think we'll all enjoy seeing that. But it was a hard-fought battle, and we appreciate everything you put into it.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that is quite a week we've had. Canada Reads 2025 is complete. A Two-Spirit Journey, championed by Shayla Stonechild, is the winner. It is the one book that all of Canada should read. We're going to celebrate the winning panelists and author on CBC Radio's Commotion tomorrow morning. Tune in for that. We are also saying goodbye to the folks listening on CBC Radio right now. If you're online or watching on TV, we'll have a few more minutes with our panelists and our brand new champ. I'm your host, Ali Hassan. Until next time, read on, Canada. Canada Reads is a great debate, as you've all been privy to. It is also the country's biggest book club. we revealed the 5 books and their champions way back in January. It feels way back at this point. And since then, readers across Canada have been discovering and reading all 5 titles. Let me get a vibe check here. How is everybody feeling? Saïd, let's start with you.
Feeling both disappointed, but also very grateful. Very grateful that this book, that people learned about this book, that people will probably connect with stories that they would never have heard about if it wasn't for that book, if it wasn't for Canada Reads. So I think that's what I'm gonna take from this, gratefulness. I just hope that people will humanize immigrants more and more, and I know that, especially in the context we are right now, it's a very important issue, it's a very important topic that people should talk about. And I hope that this book will start conversations.
Yeah, I hope so as well. I'm certain it will. I'm not even hopeful. I'm certain it will. And on a related note, Jamie is in the process of writing a second book. So I think good things are ahead for Jamie as well, not just from this conversation, but future conversations that I'm sure we'll be having around her work. Maggie, I watched you come in sort of eye of the tiger from the beginning, and when your book went off, I've watched the transformation into a very relaxed person, which is also an interesting part of Canada Reads. We see that every year. You really did embrace this free agency. How are you feeling about this experience?
It was really astounding to me, I think. Very different from anything that I've ever done, and I think that's the beauty of it. For me, I didn't anticipate being that nervous on day one, like an Olympic final, but coming in afterwards and just getting to sit back and just kind of listen to what other people have to say was really enjoyable for me.
Yeah, very interesting that you've been on the world's, some of the biggest stages, and this was, you know, out of your comfort zone. Linwood, you've debated a fair amount in your life, but I think you also, this was a new experience for you.
It was, and I want to talk about that, but very quickly, I just wanted to give a shout out to the animators who did the book trailers.
Oh, yeah.
Because I thought they were all terrifically done. Really, for those who were able to watch the show and rather than listen to it. But this has been a really great experience. I've loved being a part of it, and I'm just in favor of anything that gets people reading and buying books, because if they're not doing that, I can't pay my rent. So this was, I think this is such a terrific program, and I applaud it, and I hope it goes for many, many years to go.
I agree. And those trailers, by the way, are available at cbcbooks.ca.
Yep.
If you did not get a chance to watch them, please do, and I second that. Certainly a lot of work went into them. Michelle, your thoughts on the week and how you're feeling?
Yeah, I feel so lucky to be here. I feel really appreciative. I was introduced to Wayne Johnston. He's a brilliant, brilliant writer. I'm so happy to have read my first thriller in like a decade, and you know that was a fun experience for me. I think Dandelion is astounding. And something you said today, because I did love the story, but I wasn't going to vote for it. But then you said something today that made me realize that maybe I was looking at it through a colonial Western lens, and that the told to first-person narrative, you know, is so powerful. And it just made me rethink my view. And I thought that was really powerful. So I'm so happy to have had this experience.
Shayla, Thunder Bay has rallied behind this book and behind Ma-Nee. An entire community and series of communities have backed this book. It's been the first university press book on the show in 20 years since Rockbound. You know, so many great things have happened because of this. I wanted to leave the last 45 seconds to you to tell you.
I just want to throw my hands up to all of you, like just being here and experience each one of you and how you're able to advocate for your books. I was inspired by each one of you here, and you opened my eyes and my perspective to worldviews outside of even my own. And so I think for me, I'm a changed person from this experience, and Dandelion was my favorite book on this table. It made me cry at the end, and like critiquing it was so hard for me. Like even now, I do want to say that like the comment about intersectionality, I just meant with gender and sexuality. That was the only thing I meant, just to clarify. But I love Dandelion. It changed me as a person, and this whole experience, I just am honored to be here with each one of you, and hopefully we can make connections outside of this and like keep supporting each other's careers from here on out.
I will say Canada, the literature scene, everything around this is richer for having had this experience. So thank you all so much. That is it for another year of Canada Reads. It's been a fantastic week. Thank you all for joining us. You can catch up on Canada Reads 2025 at cbcbooks.ca. Follow us on social media, CBC Books on Instagram. And that's it. Thank you to my panelists. This is Canada Reads. Take care.